Yo, what's good with you? On today's video, I got the how to make your first Roblox game tutorial and stuff. So as the title implies, this video is for beginners and stuff. You could have just decided you want to just make games yesterday, or you could have been practicing stuff for a few months and stuff. It doesn't really matter. It's a beginner tutorial and stuff. It's going to be a very basic game. Do not come expecting to learn anything advanced. It's supposed to be a very basic tutorial and stuff. The whole point is you're supposed to explain concepts, basic things, and like this isn't like a game you could publish today and then be on the front page tomorrow. It's simply just a learning experience. So if you're here to learn, then the video is right for you and everything and stuff. But yeah, let's go ahead and get straight into it. If you guys want more beginner tutorials like this, let me know. All right, so I'm assuming you know how to open Roblox Studio and stuff. If you don't know how to, if you don't know what Roblox Studio is, it's the development space and stuff. So where developers can make games and stuff. If you don't know how to install that, just search up Roblox Studio, easy installation process, and then you'll just come here, you'll click like new experience, or you can open up one of the templates, but I would recommend for this video to click new experience, right? So I'm just gonna open up one that I already have opened everything, right? So we are currently inside of our place, our experience, I should say, right? I'm not going to explain like all the services and buttons and everything. I have videos that cover that if you're interested to go see stuff like that. Those are like studio beginner guides and stuff like that. I'm assuming you have basic knowledge of how studio works and everything. But yeah. So first things first, we're going to open up the output window and stuff just so that we can see if there's any error messages and stuff. So just go to the top, click view. It's the fourth button up here. Right, you're looking for the second icon right here. So in like this whole small button area, you're looking for the second icon. Just hover over them and you'll see what they're called. So we're looking for output. Just want to open that and stuff, right? So that we can see any error messages for when we test. Okay. So the concept for this is a very basic game. Red versus blue reminds me of a game I used to play a lot. Like I don't know, I think I was when I was like elementary school and stuff. So red versus blue. So simply, we're just gonna make two teams. When the player joins, they're able to choose whether they want to be on the red team or the blue team. They're going to have their own spawns and they'll have swords as weapons. Again, very basic tutorial. It's meant to just explain concepts. Y'all, not supposed to be a frontline game that you could just, go publish to tomorrow and be on the front page kind of thing. Okay, so the first things first, let's go ahead and let's create our teams. Now, if you look over the Explorer tab right here, which is this window over here to the right, says Explorer at the top, you'll notice that we have the teams service right here. If you do not see this, then that means you need to get it. And the way you would get it is you would go back to view at the top, just like how we did with the output menu. We would open up the command bar, which is it's the third row, second icon. So actually literally just two down from the output. So you just open this, right? So this is our command bar. So we can run commands here. So you would just simply type game, get service, teams, right? And then once you do that, press enter. And then boom, you'll see that message in the output and stuff. And then you should now see the team service if you didn't see it before. So then you could just, oh my bad, wrong thing. Then you just close out the command bar because we don't need it anymore. So once we have our team service open, we can then insert some teams. So just hover over it, you'll see the plus icon, click that. Then you can insert a team, right? We're gonna need three teams: a neutral team, a red team, and a blue team, right? So for our first team, this would be our neutral team. So we could just name this. We'll just rename it and stuff. So as you can see, we clicked on it. We have our name. Click here. Then just rename it. So we'll rename it to neutral, right? You want the auto assignable property enabled. With this, if you hover over it, it'll give you a little description and stuff. Pretty much players will be automatically placed onto the team when joining. So pretty much when a player joins the game, they'll be automatically placed onto whatever team is set to auto assignable. So hence why this is our neutral team, because we want players to be automatically assigned to a neutral team so that they can choose whether they want to be on the red or the blue team, right? And then the team color, you could do like gray, because like I see a lot of games they do like gray and stuff, but like I'm just gonna leave it as white. It's up to y'all with that. Then we're going to insert another team, so plus icon team. You're going to want to rename this team to red, right? You could name it red team, but I'd recommend just doing red because there's going to be some parts in the script later where the name of the team matters. So I would recommend just doing what I do, unless you know what you're doing, kind of thing, right? So I'm just going to rename this team to red. You're going to disable auto assignable for this, right? If you're confused as to why, it's because auto assignable means you're going to automatically assign players when they join the game to that team. We obviously don't want to automatically assign players to the red or blue team. We want to automatically assign them to the neutral team and then give them the option to choose either the red or the blue team. So we're going to leave auto assignable unchecked, and then we're going to update the team color. And then you could just choose any shade of red. It really doesn't matter. I'm just going to go with really red. And then you can insert one last one more team, I should say. So plus icon, insert a team. You're going to want to rename this team to blue. Once again, we're going to do the same exact thing we did with the red team. You're going to uncheck auto assignable because we don't want players to be automatically assigned to the blue team. We want them to have the option to choose whether they want to be on the red or blue team. Then you can update the team color once again. So completely optional, but would recommend it. We're going to go with blue, really blue, I should say, right? So then once we're done with that, we have successfully created 3 teams. We have our team set up, right? Now what we need is we need a spawn area, right? So let's see. Let's go on ahead. Let's open up our workspace. Just click this little arrow right here, right? You might have you're probably going to have a spawn location. Like, hold on, let me just insert it real quick. Where is it? Right there. So you guys probably have this by default. You'll see a spawn location and stuff by default. When you opened up your world, you can just delete that. So right click, delete. You can just delete that and stuff. I don't want you to get confused. So you could just delete that, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to insert a part, right? So look at the top, right? Make sure you have home selected at the top. You're going to see in the middle, you're going to see part. So just click this. If it's not selected, make sure you just do that and then just click block, right? Then we have our parts. And then you want to click scale top right. I'm sorry, top left. Apparently I don't know my directions. You're then going to scale this to be it's going to be like a little platform, like not too big, but like, like sort of kind of wide kind of thing, right? So you're going to want to rename this to floor, right? This is where players are going to like spawn in on top of, right? So you're going to want to rename it to floor. You can do customizations if you want. Like if you want to change the color, make it transparent, the material is completely up to you guys and stuff. And the sizing is also up to you guys. The only important properties that you need to make sure you have is make sure one is anchored and also make sure can collide is turned on. Definitely make sure can collide is turned on. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this kind of in the air kind of thing, just like in the sky. So like away from all the fighting and stuff. And then players will spawn on top of this, right? Now, what we need to do is we need to create 2 selectors and also a spawn location up here, right? So that players actually spawn on here, right? This is where they're going to walk around, but we need an actual spawn location for where they're going to spawn. So click the top up here, click model, right? Just like I did a few minutes ago, you're going to go all the way over to the right. I know it's a lot of things. You're looking for the gameplay section. You're going to see spawn. Click that, right? Not to worry if, like, let's say like your spawn was like you clicked it and it was like down here or something. All you have to do is just like, let's say it was like down here. All you have to do is just click it and then just hold, hold left click and then just take it over it, right? Make sure you have move selected or select also works, right? So yeah, like if you're having an issue where like you can't select things like this and stuff, make sure you have either select or move selected in the top left. So if you'll see, it's like kind of grayed out and stuff. So you'll see. But yeah, so we have our spawn. Now that I think about it, let's make this platform a little bit wider. Just gonna make it a little bit wider so players have a little more space, right? Now probably the smartest thing to do would be 2 things, right? One of 2 things. You could either make like 4 invisible walls so that players cannot like jump off of it and then like just go straight to the battlefield without choosing a team, or you can just do the simple thing and you can just really move the 2 of them above, like over the void kind of thing. So you can just select both of them, so just hold left click and then just hover over both of them, or just select one and then hold the control key and then left click to select both of them. Then you can just move them over, right? You can just move it over here. So then, like, let's say like they jump off, they'll just go into the void and they'll just die, and then they'll just respawn here because they're still on the neutral team, right? So you want to rename this spawn location to neutral spawn, right? And then go down here and make sure neutral is selected. You could also set the team color. Make sure the team color matches your team color, right? This is very important. So you guys remember the neutral team, right? Make sure whatever team color you put here and stuff matches the one here, right? Oh, speaking of which, I chose the wrong one. I meant to wait. That's the what? Institutional white. Wait, I'm so confused. Lily white. Wait, I'm confused. They're not the same white, but they look this. Okay, never mind. Okay, I'm just gonna switch it to institutional white. Anyway, so the point is they need to match, right? When you go to both, they need to match and stuff. So make it a little confusing. Just make sure you know which one which color you select, and then the team color needs to match it for the spawn, right? So then when players automatically spawn in, they'll spawn at this spawn, right? Hence why we have it set. We have the neutral property set to true. Now what we need to do is is create two selectors, right? The red team selector and the blue team selector. Pretty much players walk over to the platform, and if they step on it and stuff, it automatically put them on whatever team it is for that selector. So we're gonna insert another part just like we did the first time and stuff. You can click home and then you'll see the part button again. So insert another block, right? You can just move it over here. You're gonna scale it to make it just, a little wider and stuff like that. It's like just something like that. And then you can rename this part to red team selector, right? Then let's go ahead and let's change the color because we want it to be like very clear that, okay, this is for the red team, this is for the blue team. So we'll just change it and stuff. It doesn't have to necessarily match the same color as your team, but it's probably just for the best that you do that. And then for properties, make sure it's anchored, and that would really just be it. Then we can save ourselves some time by duplicating this. The way you duplicate things is you can click duplicate in the top left, or you can press Control plus D while having whatever the item is selected. So Control plus D or duplicate in the top left. Then you can just move it over, right? And then this way we can save ourselves a whole bunch of time, because now all we have to do is just go and rename this to blue team selector, and then just update the color, and then boom, just like that, we are ready to go with our selectors, right? And then now we're done with our spawn area, right? We're done with our spawn area. Now we can go ahead and set up the spawn locations for the actual teams. So once players have joined the game and they've walked over to the blue team selector or the red team selector, they'll be killed, and then it'll respawn them back at spawns so that they can go join the fight and whatnot. So let's insert another spawn. So model in the top right, and then look all the way to the right, and you'll see spawn. So boom, let's do that twice, right? And then you're going to see we're going to have two different spawns. You'll of course want to rename one to red spawn, then of course, like I said, change the color to match and stuff. You can change the brick color, but it's very important that you scroll all the way down and you disable neutral, right? And that you set the team color equal to red, right? If you're wondering about the allow team change property, this pretty much just means if a player was to walk, let's say they were to walk on the spawn, right? It would, like, let's say like someone on the blue team was to walk and make contact with this spawn, it would switch them to the red team. If you're wondering why I didn't use that over here instead of making parts, the problem with that is that it's a spawn location, so like there would be a chance they would respawn the player here instead of actually, like, on the battlefield and stuff, right? So we have our red spawn. Then let's go over to this other part, and then we have our blue spawn. Just rename it, then change the color to match. Go down here, disable neutral, change the team color, bam, right? There we go and stuff. Now, obviously, in an actual game, you would have your spawns, like, the red team home base would be like across the map, while the blue team is like, all the way over there, right? Obviously, it would be like that. I'm gonna press Control Z just to undo what I just did and stuff, just to bring them back together and stuff. I'm gonna have them right next to each other just simply for the sake of testing, because I don't feel like walking across the map to go test and stuff, right? So just like that, we have our red spawn and our blue spawn, right? So we've set up our spawns and we have our team selectors and stuff, right? Again, in an actual game, you would have your red spawn over here, your blue spawn like over there. It's up to you guys where you want to put it. I'm just putting it here for the sake of testing and stuff and usability, but you guys can put it wherever you want. It's completely up to you guys, right? Now let's work on our UI. We're going to make some very basic UI and stuff. If you don't know what UI stands for user interface and stuff, we're simply just going to have some text labels at the top that simply say red versus blue, and we're going to keep track of score. Pretty much every time a person on the red team kills a blue team member and stuff, red team score will increase by 1, and vice versa with the blue team if they killed a red team member, right? So let's head on over to Starter GUI. You're going to click the plus icon. You're going to insert a Screen GUI. You're going to want to rename the Screen GUI to Score GUI because we're going to keep track of it, right? So Score GUI. You're going to want to disable this property. This is Reset on Spawn. So just uncheck it. So Reset on Spawn, that pretty much means that, as the name implies, the UI will reset back to its default state if a player dies. Now let me explain what that means, right? Let's say you have in our case, actually, a scoring system, right? Let's say, like, obviously during the game the score is being updated every time a player dies, like, the other team is getting a point for that, right? Now let's say you have this property checked, like it's enabled. What would happen is if the player died, the UI would reset back to its default state, to however it is, like, before the game started, like however it is like in the studio and stuff. So, and obviously by default you just have the score set to 0, so it wouldn't actually be keeping track. By disabling this, you make all changes to the UI concurrent, as in like they will persist regardless of if the player dies or not. The only reason the UI will change is if like you have a script that like changes it, which is what we're going to do. We're going to have it update every time a team scores a point and stuff like that. So just wanted to explain that in case anybody was interested in that. But anyway, so then we're going to go ahead and insert text labels. So let's plus icon, you're going to insert text label. If you don't see it, just type text and then just make sure you get text label. You're going to want to move this over to like the top middle, but like kind of the left side. You're going to want to rename this text label to red text label, right? I'm going to make the background color red, and then I'm going to go down here. I'm going to make it bold text. We're going to have rich text, so I'm just enabling these properties. Scale text as well. You're going to want to change the text to red colon space 0 and stuff, because by default the score should be 0 and stuff. Now the customization is completely up to you guys and whatnot. The only thing that's important is the name. That's the only thing that matters, is the name. You guys can do whatever fonts, colors, and sizing, and that's completely up to you guys and stuff, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have it set red 0. I'm going to change the text stroke color to white and then set text stroke transparency to 0. Then I'm going to make the background transparency. I'm going to set this to equal to 0.5, so it's kind of faded, right? Then I'm going to duplicate this. You guys remember how we learn to duplicate things? We can either have it selected and press Control plus D, or just press duplicate in the top left while having home selected in the top. So we can just duplicate it, right? Then we can just move it over, leave a little space in the middle so we can put the versus keyword, right? And then you're going to change the background color to, blue, and rename this to blue text label, right? Then you're going to go ahead and scroll all the way down. You're going to see the text. We're going to say blue colon 0, right? And then just like that, we are ready to go and stuff with that part. Now we can do the last one. So you can click the plus icon, insert another text label, or you can just duplicate one of the already existing ones. You're going to want to set the sizing to 50 by 50. So a simple way you could just do this is just by select the entire thing and then just type 50, and then it'll automatically do 50 by 50, right? And then, but again, sizing is up to you guys. This is if you want to match mine. So then you're going to want to rename this to versus text label, right? This is just for aesthetics pretty much. So bold text, rich text, scale text. Then I'm just going to put the word VS, for versus. Then, text stroke color will be white. Text stroke transparency will be set to 0. And then background transparency, we'll set that to 1. So the background is fully transparent. But before I do that, actually, I'm going to move this and stuff, right? Because it has to be visible for you to actually move it around and stuff. So make sure the background is visible before you move it, and then set the background transparency to 1, right? So there we go. We have verses in the middle, and there we go. UI looks pretty nice and stuff, right? Keep in mind, it's just for a basic game. You guys can spend all the time making it look as cool and everything as you want. It's completely up to you guys. Okay. Now, for the second to last thing we're going to do, I should say, we're going to want to insert 2 values into replicated storage. Now, replicated storage, it's pretty much a storage place that is, what's the best way to explain this? It's a storage container. Think of it like a storage container that can be accessed by both the client. Client is keyword for player, and the server, which is, the server and stuff, right? So it can be accessed by both and stuff. And as you probably guess, server storage can only be accessed by the server and stuff. We're going to have these values inside of replicated storage so that the client can see them. The players can see the values, not like literally, but the client, the player scripts, I should say, can see them and can access their values and whatnot. So you're going to click the plus icon. You're going to insert a number value and stuff, right? Very simple concept to understand. Number value is just a number value is stuff, right? We're going to want to rename this to red score, right? That's how we keep track of the score. Obviously, by default, the value will be set to 0. Then you can just duplicate this. Remember, having it selected, Control plus D, and then just rename the second one to blue score, right? And this way we'll keep track. So pretty much when a member of the blue team kills a member of the red team, this will increase by 1, then again by 1 if they kill another person, and vice versa with the red team killing a member of the blue team, right? Now, for the last thing, we're going to need a weapon, of course. This is a fighting game, right? Now, I was kind of debating on what I wanted to do and stuff. I was going to use my gun script and show you guys how to do that and stuff. Even though it's a very basic gun system, it's still 100 and like it's still like 140 lines of code and stuff. And I felt like that might be too overwhelming for like beginners and stuff. And then I felt like the same would happen, like trying to make like a melee system or like a fighting punch system and stuff. So I felt like the best thing to do was to just take an already existing combat system, which is just the basic Roblox sword. So what you guys are gonna do, you're gonna have home selected in the top, go to the middle, look for the toolbox. This is where you can search for assets. You can get any kind of assets from here, whether it be VFX effects, any kind of effects, vehicles, weapons, scripts, animations, yeah, pretty much anything. So what you're gonna type in, you're just gonna type sword, right? You're gonna get the first one you see, but just to double check, it should say it's by Roblox, right? So you're gonna get this. It's gonna give you a warning message that it has scripts inside. That is okay. So just press OK. Then it's gonna ask to put this tool into the starter pack. You're gonna select yes, right? Again, the reason why we're using an already existing weapon system is pretty much because I felt like it's too much for a beginner. I don't want to overwhelm you guys by making a combat system. That's more so for like people who are like semi on their way to like intermediate level, I should say. So it's going to be inside of starter pack. So you can just click the arrow and stuff that's in between starter GUI and starter player, right? If you don't know what starter pack is pretty much, this is where like if there's any tools inside of this folder, the player will automatically spawn with those tools and stuff. Any tools inside of here the player will automatically spawn with them. So it's just a classic sword and stuff, right? If you open it up, it has scripts, the handle and everything. Now a good way to practice, like after this video, a good thing to practice what you could do is like, now I know going through this code, you're probably extremely confused and don't know what you're looking at and stuff. Maybe you understand a few things and stuff. That's perfectly okay. That's normal. I'm not telling you to go through this code, read it and understand it. But if you do want to mess around with certain things, it is a great way to learn and stuff. Like if you want to mess around with the damage values, the animations, have your own custom animations and stuff, you guys can do that. It's completely up to you guys and whatnot and stuff. But again, you don't have to, as it is a intermediate level script that is probably hard for a beginner to understand and stuff. But if you can understand it and you want to give it a try, go ahead and stuff, right? So we have our sword. This is going to be our weapon, which is inside a starter pack. Move it to starter pack if it's not already inside a starter pack, right? And then now we're done with all the prerequisite stuff. We can then move on to the scripting. Okay, so you're going to see starter player, which is right under starter pack and right above teams. So click the arrow. Then you'll see starter player scripts, right? You'll click the plus icon. You'll see local script. If you don't see, just type local. Click the plus icon. Then you want to rename the script to core script. In parentheses, you're going to put local, right? If you're going to delete print hello world, it's the default text that'll be on every script anytime you insert a script. And then we're going to create 3 variables, right? Again, I have beginner videos that explain like what variables are and functions and all that. I'm gonna give you guys a basic walkthrough of how this code works, but not explaining every little thing and stuff, right? So first things first, we're going to create a variable for the user input service. So we're going to say local is how we create a variable. You're going to then give the variable a name. We're going to say UIS. This is just abbreviating, right? This is the name for it, since it's for the user input service. We're just abbreviating it by saying UIS. Then is equal. So right, we're initializing. We're going to assign it a value. We're going to say game : get service, just like we did with the teams at the beginning of the video and stuff. Get service, quotation marks, right? Now we need to say which service we want. We're going to get the user input service, right? So enter. We've now created a variable for the user input service, right? The user input service is, as the name implies, it's a service that's used to detect input and stuff. When you click your mouse, you touch your keypad, you touch a key bind, like a key on your keyboard and stuff. If a person that's playing on their phone taps their phone screen, a controller player like on a console, blah blah blah, right? Then we're going to create a variable for our local player. So again, local, the name of the variable, player and stuff, right? Now I do want to clarify something, right? Because I don't know if people maybe get confused about this and stuff, right? When I say local player and stuff, I don't mean because we have the word local and then player, and so it's not what I mean. It's not what I mean. You're about to see what I mean. Local is how we create variables, and then player is just simply the name of the variable, right? We're going to assign it the value. We're going to say game dot players, which is the player service, dot local player. This is what I mean when I say we're getting the local player and stuff. It's just coincidentally that the name of the variable, that the way you initialize a variable is with the keyword local, and then I'm just naming it player and stuff like that, right? I just didn't want anybody to be confused by that. But the local player is pretty much just retrieving the player on like the player side of things and stuff. It's that simple. Then the score GUI, this is pretty simple to understand. We're just getting this again on the player side of things, right? Because all this is the player side. That's why it's a local script, because it is local changes. So then you're going to create a variable for the score GUI. So score GUI is equal to player, right? And then you're going to access the UI. You're going to say dot player GUI. Then you're going to say colon wait for child, because we want to wait for it. If you're unaware and stuff like that, you know how when you're loading into, you know how when you click play on a game, especially a game that has a lot of assets like an RPG game or something, you'll normally have to have a loading screen. A lot of games have loading screens and stuff like that. The reason for that is because obviously the assets loading. It's a lot of stuff loading. You have maps, sounds, visual effects, stuff like you have a lot of stuff loading. And one thing that is loading is UI and stuff, especially for games that have a lot of UI and stuff like that. So we're going to need to wait for it. So you're just going to say quotation marks score GUI. We're just simply going to wait for it before we proceed. That's all we're saying. Now we're going to set up our first function. We're going to say UIS, which remembers the user input service. You're going to say dot input began. This is a function, a built-in Roblox function. Input began. So pretty much once an input is begun and stuff, once a player has initiated some kind of input, this function will be triggered. Enter, then colon connect. We're now going to connect this built-in function, right? We're going to say function in parentheses because it's a keyword, right? Then parentheses again, and then you're going to say input. You're going to type input, comma, processed, enter, right? So first things first, this will give us, we're going to be able to use this keyword, or let me not say keyword. We're going to be able to use this word input, and we're going to be able to detect what kind of input the player inputted, I guess is the best way to phrase that. And then process, this pretty much just check to see if the player was typing in chat when they said it. If you don't understand what that means, you know how you can type in Roblox chat, like if you're talking to somebody and stuff like that, right? Let's say you're in a game where like you have magical abilities. If you press the T key, you're gonna cause an explosion that kills everybody, right? But let's say you're typing to somebody and you say the blah blah blah, right? You typed the T key, but you were talking to somebody, right? You obviously don't want an explosion to go off. So this is why we need to double check to make sure that the player was not typing in chat. So you're going to want to say if. We're going to use an if statement. So pretty much if this condition is true, if the condition is met, then the following code will proceed. If not, the code will not proceed. So we're going to say if input, right? We're going to say dot user input type. We're checking the input type is equal to enum. Enum is essentially like a library of things and stuff like that. So you're going to say dot user input type. Then we're looking for specifically, this is what I meant when I said it. You can have a whole bunch of different types of input and stuff. You have the mouse for when you left click, gamepad and stuff for consoles, blah, blah, blah. We're looking for keyboard, right? So keyboard. So whenever you press any key on a keyboard, and not process, which pretty much means process equal to false and stuff. This means the player was not typing in chat. That's what that means. Then you'll press enter. All right. So if all of this is true, then we'll proceed to this line, and we're going to use another if statement. We're then going to say if input, right? Dot key code, because we've confirmed that a player was typing. We've confirmed two things so far. We've confirmed that a player pressed a key on their keyboard and that they were not typing in chat, which means they're trying to do something, right? So then we need to confirm which keybind did they press and stuff. If you're a little confused, key code is just another word for keybind. That's just what they call it. So key code is equal to enum. Again, we're going to search this library. We have dot key code dot, and then here you would find your keybind, right? So what I'm doing is I'm making a basic shift to sprint system, just a running system and everything. When you hold down a left shift keybind and stuff, the player will be able to run at twice the speed. So we're just gonna look for left shift, but you guys can choose whatever keybind you want. Again, I recommend you just follow what I do, just easier, but it's up to you. So left shift, then enter again. So if they selected the left shift keybind, we're then going to increase their walk speed, and so that's how fast the player can walk/run. So you're then going to say player, right? Our local variable up here, local player. We're going to say player dot character, right? And stuff. So we're accessing the player's character, and then we're going to say dot humanoid. Humanoid is inside of the player. It controls like a whole bunch of stuff with the player and stuff like their health, their walk speed, their jump power, blah blah blah. Then you're going to access the walk speed property. Again, this is how fast they can walk/run. Then you're going to say is equal to 32. The default walking speed in Roblox is 16 and stuff. If you want them to like be able to move a little bit slower or a little bit faster, you can adjust this number as need be. It's up to you guys. Play around with this number and stuff. It's honestly a good way to teach yourself and like understand it better if that's something you're interested in. Now, what we're going to do is, right, the whole point, this is a beginner tutorial, but I also want to show you guys how to save time when you're coding. So we're going to do a lot of copying and pasting, which is coding with literally anything and stuff. Coding is just copying and pasting pretty much. So you're going to select this entire function, right? The entire function, everything we just did, right? You're going to either press Control plus C on your keyboard, or you can just press copy in the top left, right? Then you're going to press enter and enter again. We want to put a line in between functions and stuff. We want to space functions out. We don't want it to look jumbled up and stuff. We need to be able to read our code. Readability is very important in programming. Then you're going to press Control plus V or just paste in the top left, right? Then now we've just copy and pasted our function. All we have to do now is just change a few things around and we'll be good to go. Okay, so you see the word input began, just select it, and you're going to look for input ended, enter, right? And I'm pretty sure you guys understand what we're doing here. Input began when you press the key bind. Input ended is when you take your finger off of it, right? So obviously the way a shift to sprint system works, well, there are different kinds of shift to sprint systems, but the way our system is going to work is while the player holds down shift, they're able to run. When they let go, they're going to just, go back to walking at the, regular speed. So we're simply just going to say input ended. Then all we have to do is just simply reset their walk speed back to whatever the default, walk speed is, which is 16 by default for Roblox. And again, up to you guys, whatever you want it to be and stuff, right? Then just like that, we're done with our two functions. And you see how we just saved a whole bunch of time? We didn't have to, rewrite, what is that, 7 lines, or wait, I can't count, 6 lines of code just to change 2 things. All right, now we're going to set up 2 more functions, right? Remember what I said about how we're keeping track of the score and stuff for, whenever the red team kills a member of the blue team or the blue team kills a member of the red team, right? Now we need to update that. So we're going to create variables for our values inside of replicated storage. We're going to say local red score, right, is equal to game. Then we're going to access the replicated storage. So replicated storage dot red score, or sorry, I did that wrong. We're gonna wait for the value just to ensure it's there, just like we did with the UI. So colon, wait for child, quotation marks, red score, right? Then we're gonna do the same thing. Local blue score is equal to game dot replicated storage, wait for child, blue score, right? We've now created variables for both scores. And then we need to make sure that whenever the values are changed, they're updated here for the player. So we're gonna say red score dot changed, which pretty much fired whenever the number value dot value is changed. So enter, right? So pretty much whenever this value changes, then this function will be triggered. So you'll say connect function, close parentheses, enter, right? So once it changes, you want to update the UI. You're going to say score GUI dot red text label dot text is equal to, in quotation marks, you're going to say red colon space dot dot dot. Then you're going to say red score dot value. So just to explain this if you're a little confused, quotation marks is, how you do strings and stuff. So like just basic text and everything. Let's say you want to add stuff that's like, not text, like, you're trying to access like a variable's value and whatnot. You have to do the dot dot and stuff. Or I think you can do, yeah, no, you can't do plus. That's Java and Python anyway. So you're just gonna put dot dot in between and stuff like that. Like I couldn't, like if I were to delete this and stuff like that, you'll see I now have an error and stuff like that. You need to make sure, and you can't do 1 dot. It has to be 2 dots and stuff, right? To separate them. Then red score, we're accessing the red score. We're referencing, I should say, the red score variable, and then we're accessing its value. Then again with the copying and pasting, just select it, copy, skip a line, paste it. Then you're just gonna change this to blue score. We're going to come down here, change this to blue text label, change the word red to blue, then change this from red score to blue score dot value, right? So that the correct text label is being updated with the correct value. Then we are halfway done. Now let's move on to the server script, right? So let's head to server script service right here and stuff. So this is where only server scripts can go. It's pretty much like everything done here is done on the server side and stuff. Everything is done safely and all the important stuff is done here. So plus icon, you're going to insert a server script. Make sure you don't click module script, 2 different things. So just type script if you don't see it, server script, rename the script to core script in parentheses server, right? Again, delete the print hello world. We're going to create 2 variables. First, we need to set up the team selector system and stuff. Remember, if you guys recall, we have our over there, our team selectors. So create a variable for the red team selector. So we're going to say red team selector is equal to workspace again, we're going to wait for it, quotation marks, red team selector. Then again, local blue team selector is equal to workspace, wait for child, quotation marks, blue team selector. Now we'll set up our team selecting functions, right? We will say red team selector dot touched. Pretty much this function will be triggered whenever anything touches the part and stuff. Now obviously we need to check to make sure it is a player touching it, right? Which we will do that. So we'll say connect function, and parentheses you're going to put the word hit and stuff. This is pretty much whatever part made contact with the team selector, stuff like that, right? Now the reason why we're going to put hit and not character or player, I want to explain something real quick, and you guys just watch what I'm doing. So right here, as you guys can see, right, this is my character, right? Now you may think that, like, let's say if I go over here and I touch this, you're thinking my character is touching it, but that is not true. What is happening is one of my body parts is touching it, right? It's not that my character is touching it, it's that my feet are touching it, or that my leg is touching it, right? So in this particular case, you would say my right foot and my left foot are touching it, right? And then you could also argue like my leg might be touching. I don't know if my leg might be. No, my leg is a little higher than that. But the point is, it's a body part is touching it, right? So we need to go for the parent. The parent is pretty much, like what's above this, like what encapsulates all of this. As you can, like, you notice how, like, here this is my character, and like all of this stuff, all the body parts and character stuff is inside of this. So this would be my parent and stuff, which is my character. So we're just going to go to the parent to see if it is a character. And we're going to verify that there is a humanoid inside, right? This part right here and stuff. If there's a humanoid inside, that means one of two things: it's either an NPC or it's a player. Not totally sure why you would have an NPC at spawn that's walking around and stuff. So we're just gonna, go with that, the fact that it's a player. So we're gonna say another if statement. If hit dot parent, right? So we're gonna go for the parent. We're gonna say colon find first child. So which pretty much just means it's just gonna search for this humanoid, right? Humanoid. So if the only things that would have a humanoid inside is either a player or an NPC. Not sure why an NPC would be there, so we're just gonna assume it's a player. Enter, then create a variable for our player. Just say player is equal to game.players. We need to go get the actual player's instance. So game.players. If you're wondering why we don't just do this, players equal to game.players.local player, you can only do this on the locals, on a local script, which is why it's called local player and stuff. Because keep in mind, this local script, this is for each individual player and stuff, right? So you're getting the local player for, that specific client. This is a server script, so you can't get, this is the server side. You can't get a local player when this is for the server and stuff. It's just not how things work, right? So then you'll say find first child. Again, we're looking for something. It'll say hit. This is the body part, a foot, a leg, right? Dot parent, which should be a character. Then you'll say dot name, because keep in mind, your character will have the same name as your player and stuff, right? So we'll then skip a few lines. We'll say if player enter. This is just a check. So if player, which pretty much means just confirming that it is a player and not like an NPC or anything. So if it is a player, if it does exist, then we will update that player's team. We will say player dot team is equal to game dot teams, right? Keep in mind this is the red team selector, so we'll say game dot teams red. We've now updated their team. They're now on the red team. Then we will also update their respawn location so that when they die, they will respawn at the red team spawn. So we'll say player dot respawn location is equal to workspace dot red spawn. Lastly, we'll kill them so that they can respawn. So that two things: they can respawn at their team spawn, as well as they'll get their team's uniform, which we will get to that in the third function we make. So then lastly, we're just gonna kill them. So we're gonna say player dot character. We're gonna say character dot humanoid dot health. So we're just gonna set their health equal to 0. That's just how you kill them. Then again, save ourselves some time. Select the entire function, copy, skip a line by pressing enter twice, then paste, change this to blue team selector, right? Dot touched. Then all you're gonna do is go down here, change this to blue, change the respawn location to blue spawn, bam, right? And then that remains the same, and then we're done with those first two functions. Now for our third and final function, right? So we're going to pretty much make it so that whenever a player switches teams and stuff, they get a uniform. So because we need to be able to distinguish between who's on what team and stuff. Let's say, you're shooting at somebody and they're, again, for this video, I'm not making guns, but let's just assume in a scenario where your game has guns. If someone is like 50 meters away and you can't really tell, because you're not going to be able to tell which team they're on because you can't see the username from that far and stuff, right? But if they have a uniform on, you can kind of distinguish between who's who. That's how things work in the real world, I think, right? So we're going to have each team's going to have their own uniform. So we're going to set up a function. We're going to say game.players, the player service, player added. This function will be triggered whenever a player joins the game. Connect function in parentheses put PLR, which is short for the player who joined the game. Enter. You're then going to set up another function. You're going to say player dot character added and does the same thing whenever a character is added to the game and stuff. Pretty much just also applies for when a character respawns. So connect function in parentheses put character. Enter. First things first, you're going to say if player.team, because obviously you don't want to assign a uniform if like the player just joined the game. You only want to assign the uniform if they're on the red team or the blue team. So let's say if the player's team is equal to game.teams.red, right? So enter. So let's say they're on the red team. We do need to wait a second because certain things don't load like automatically and stuff like that, and you don't want to get an error message. So we're just going to say task.wait 1 second, right? So that's just simply it's just going to pause the script, and then it'll continue execution once the time is elapsed. So, after 1 second, we'll then proceed with this. So we will say character.shirt. We're going to update the player's shirt. We're going to say .shirt template and stuff. We're going to update it with its ID. So we're going to say it's equal to quotation marks. You're going to type it. This is going to be a lot. You don't have to memorize this or anything. You can always just search this up and stuff, right? So you're just going to say http:// 3 W's roblox.com /asset question mark the word ID is equal to then you're going to put this ID 10651854915, right? And so if you're wondering, this is an ID I got from like the marketplace and stuff. You guys can use your own IDs, but you probably don't know how to get those and stuff. So just use the IDs I use, right? So this is just to update the uniforms and stuff like that, right? Then you could just copy and paste this. So just select it, Control C, Control V, or just copy and paste in the top left. You're gonna change this to pants. We need to update both the shirt and pants. Then pants template, and then obviously we're gonna have a different ID. If you're a little confused as to what this is just simply how you. This is like an asset ID for assets. Assets are things, or well, can be various things, but in this context, we're talking about shirts and pants, right? This is the specific ID for whatever the shirt and pants is and stuff, right? And then this is just, like how you set up the link, I guess, for it and stuff, so that it knows like how to go searching for what you're looking for, I guess. I think that's the best way to explain it. Now for our second ID, we're going to do 992.022.6826, right? Then enter. You're going to go after that, and then you're going to type in else if. Else if pretty much means if the first thing wasn't true, then it's going to check the second condition, and if that's, it's going to check the second statement, and if that's true, then it'll proceed with that. So if the player is not on the red team, we'll see if they're on the blue team, and if they are on the blue team, then we will proceed. So we will say else. Again, let's save ourselves some time, right? We can copy and paste this. So select this, just this part, right? Copy, go right here, right next to the else, and paste. And then now we have it. Else if player.team is equal to, and then we got to update this. So we will say game.team is equal to blue team. So the blue team, right? Then all we got to do is just update the ID and stuff for the blue team. So we will say 12/08/967/8253. And then for the pants for the blue team, we will say I think I'm looking at 4 ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, I think. Or maybe that's 5. I don't know. We're just gonna hope for the best. Then 2 5s, then 08172, right? Oh, actually, since they match up in length, that's probably the same. Yeah. Okay, so we're done with that part of the function. Then you're just gonna go right here. So right after the end, then just like after the word end, by the way. Then you're just gonna press enter twice, give yourself some space, and then you're gonna set up one last function. You're gonna say character dot humanoid. We're gonna use the humanoid again. Dot died. So whenever the character, so whenever player dies, pretty much, you're gonna say connect function. Close parentheses. Enter. you're going to first get the team name and stuff, right? You're going to create a variable. So team name, you're going to say is equal to player dot team name, right? And then you're just going to do the opposite, because obviously if a member of the red team just died, then the blue team deserves a point. If a member of the blue team just died, then the red team deserves a point. So you're going to say if team name is equal to red, enter, right? Then you will say game dot replicated storage dot blue score dot value, right? Then you're going to say plus equal 1. If you're a little confused, plus equal just means you're incrementing the value by 1. You're increasing it by 1. It's essentially the same thing as just saying is equal to game dot replicated storage dot blue score dot value plus 1. You see how it saves a whole bunch of time? Like instead of doing all that, all you got to do is just do plus sign equal 1. Saves us a lot of time and stuff, right? Then enter, then you're going to do the opposite. So else if team name is equal to, in quotation marks, blue, enter, then you'll say game dot replicated storage dot red score dot value is plus equal 1. That's simple, right? And then just like that, we are done. We can then go ahead and test to make sure everything works. I recommend you guys publish everything so that everything saves and stuff. So publish to Roblox. So we can go ahead and click play and stuff like that. So as you guys can see, we spawn in with our sword and stuff. You can left click and you can see sound effects and everything, and then it works, blah, blah, blah. Now we just need to test to make sure that we spawn on the correct team. Okay, so if I select over to red, boom. I am now on the red team. As you can see, a little second delay, but my outfit updated. I got on the right outfit and stuff. For some reason, the team... Oh, I know why I did that. Oh, it updated. It was not supposed to do that. Okay. Let's see what it did. Let me see. Let's see, because it was not supposed to increase that. Let's see. Hold on, guys. I must figure this out. So if they die and if their team, oh, I get it, because they were already on that. Okay, easy fix. So pretty much to explain the glitch in case anybody's confused what happened. So because we died, because we had to reset our player and stuff like that, right? It pretty much just counted that as like a member of the opposite team just killed me and stuff, right? So a simple fix, we're just going to decrease their score by 1. If it's going to add it by 1 by mistake, then we're just going to fix that mistake by just decreasing it. So all you got to do is just head on over to these team selector functions, right? And then you're just going to say game.replicated storage. And then since this is for the red team, we would need to do it for the blue team. So the opposite, blue score dot value. You're going to say less than equal to 1. So you're just going to take away 1. Then just copy and paste this, Control C, go down here, Control V, then just change this to red score, right? Now, that right there, prime example of things not working as intended, this is how things work a lot of time in programming, and you've got to simply just figure it out. Okay, so now if we test again, I'm on the... Okay. All right. This is very interesting. Okay, well, we're going to remove that. We're going to remove both of those. Okay. You know what? We're just gonna ignore it, okay? Because it's not that big of a deal. It's only by 1 point. It's only by 1 point stuff. And again, this is just meant to be a teachable moment. And let this be. Don't do it like this. Don't do it exactly like this. Like in an actual game, we would have it set to like whenever you actually kill somebody. Like in the coding for like the melee weapons or the guns, you would have it where it actually updates the kill count. You wouldn't have it set to where they die and you update it like this, because this doesn't work for many different instances. Like if you forcibly kill a player through a script, if they like fall out of bounds, if they reset their player and stuff. There's many instances as to why you wouldn't do that. But for the sake of this video, we're just gonna let that be. The point is, it puts us on the red team, gives us our uniform. Now it says for the blue team, right? Gives us our uniform, we're on the blue team. Nice. Now let's test to see if the score increases when we kill another player. So you can do that by just going to the top middle, test. Then you want to click this, and you want to make sure you choose at least 2 players, then click start. This will take a few seconds and stuff, so you just got to wait a little bit. So pretty much you'll see it in a second. It's gonna pop up, and it pretty much is a way for you to test with like test enemies like and stuff like that. So you can just switch between them, right? So I'm gonna go red one on the player one team. Then you would click this menu down here to just switch in between them. So I'm gonna go to the other player and switch to and then switch to the other team. Okay, so assume our score is 1-1, right? So as a member of the blue team, if I kill the red guy, as you can see, my score increased, right? Now, if I switch over to the red team, and then I kill the blue member, bam, my score increased by 1. So our score count does work. And then you would just simply go all the way to the left. You're looking for this menu, then just click clean up, and then it'll get rid of all that. So yeah, so that's how to make that's how to make your first Roblox game. Very basic, red versus blue. I hope my explanations were clear and concise. I tried my best and stuff like that. If you guys want more beginner level content like this, for sure just let me know in the comments and stuff. If you enjoyed this video, definitely leave a like and subscribe. um yeah, if you guys are interested in more content like this, just let me know. Hope this video was helpful. If it was, definitely let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching.